The last few episodes of Barn Stories have been pretty heavy. We've heard about wildfires, dead horses, and existential questions about the nature of the universe. Well, this episode's a little different. A lot different. It's about a horse who is terrified of sheep.
Not that it's a funny situation for the horse. I'm sure she was certain the sheep were going to eat her, and she reacted as any horse would. Thankfully, her rider kept her cool and even found some humor in the situation. Not only did she help her mare cope in the moment, but used it to strengthen their bond. Welcome to the Barn Stories podcast. I'm Lori Prinz, editor of Equus Magazine.
And I'm managing editor Christine Barakat.
This podcast features our favorite essays and articles published in Equus over the past 40 years. Although Equus is known for articles on horse care and veterinary research, our editorial mission has always been guided by the bond that exists between horses and people. And each issue has featured a real-life story that celebrates how horses enrich our lives and touch our hearts.
We've searched our archives, chosen the stories that resonated with our readers, and given them new life in this audio format. Longtime subscribers may recognize some of their favorite pieces. And if you're new to the Equus community, these stories will confirm that no matter what sort of saddle you sit in, a deep emotional connection to horses is something we all share. So let's listen to Sheepish, written by Robin Morris and read by Taylor Autumn.
In Fishtail, Montana, population less than 300, the annual parade is a highlight of summer. One of the many groups that participates in the event regularly is the Beartooth Backcountry Horsemen Chapter. This year, I joined 5 other members to ride, displaying our chapter's banners. The parade route was like a carnival. Both sides of the street were crawling with people of all ages. Add in the bicycles, skateboarders, yapping dogs, floats, musical bands, emergency vehicles, and vendors with pop-up tents, and you have the makings for one really good training opportunity. One of our riders was aboard a green horse. The rest of us were mounted on parade veterans, including the mare I was riding, Elle, my friend's Missouri Foxtrotter. For our first pass through town, we fell into our place behind the Christian Ranch campers, and we were followed by a darling entry, a young girl dressed as Little Bo Peep, leading 2 neatly clipped, black-faced sheep. The ride went smoothly until we reached the far side of town. The procession slowed into a traffic jam as we made the big turn for the second pass. Suddenly, Elle started spinning, trembling and rearing, and then we figured out the problem. Elle had decided that those adorable sheep were actually horse-eating monsters who had singled her out as their next kill. After jostling around for several minutes, our group rode behind a house to calm Elle and allow her to regain her composure. We asked Little Bo Peep to move ahead of us so Elle's monsters would no longer be following her. After the sheep were out of sight, we fell in behind a horse-drawn buggy and continued the parade. We made it almost all the way back through town when the games began anew. Just before the bridge, Elle started rearing and lurching forward, fast approaching a complete meltdown. Little Bo Peep and her sheep had paused nearby to rest in the shade. Normally, I would have just used the one rein stop and circled Elle, but here, on a cement bridge, on a newly shod horse, with people crowded all around, circling wasn't a good idea. It's amazing how much detail your brain registers in stressful situations. The unattended toddler, the lurching yippy dog, the elderly gentleman with the cane. I would just have to keep Elle moving forward until I could safely dismount.
Today's episode is brought to you by the American Quarter Horse Youth Association. A $25 membership to AQHYA has the potential to unlock thousands of scholarship dollars through the American Quarter Horse Foundation. AQHYA is unlocking dreams one scholarship at a time. The next dream could be yours. Join today at aqha.com/youth.
As we crossed the bridge, Elle made some leaps that would do a Lipizzaner proud. But once we reached the far side, her anxiety had eased. The sheep were finally out of sight. She collected herself and continued for a few strides, only to completely lose it again. We had reached the sheep trailer. The smell must have been really strong to her, and in her mind, the sheep were multiplying and following her everywhere. Fortunately, the crowd was thinner here, so I could safely dismount and lead Elle back to the trailer. After all the excitement, a few of us went out for a trail ride. At the trailhead, I took out a sheepskin saddle pad and showed it to Elle. She blew. But after a few patient minutes of desensitizing her to the sheepskin, I was able to rub her all over with it. But we both will pass on participating in the Great Montana Sheep Drive in Reed Point. I have ridden Elle for years, and she is a wonderful, level-headed horse, both in parades and on the trail. Her reaction to the sheep reminded me that, under the right circumstances, any horse can lose it. We have to respect their natural flight instinct and respond in a manner that is safe for us, the horse, and those around us.
Thanks for listening to Barn Stories. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a favorite article or essay from the AQHYA archives that you'd like us to feature in a future podcast, let us know. You can reach us at AQHYA Barn Stories, all one word, @gmail.com.
Did you enjoy this episode of Barn Stories? Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Thanks for listening. The Barn Stories podcast is a production of the Equine Podcast Network, an entity of the Equine Network.